you begin to change the culture of the organization. So when they start giving commissions and bonuses, all of these things, if it impacts a person's job security, they're going to do what it takes to get it done. Any comments?
Only to comment, Ms.
Go ahead.
Archer, in terms of quite familiar with the wanting to meet targets, and they do push you to meet the target, and so sometimes loan officers themselves comes up with what do you call it, you know, their own means of trying to get it there, coming up with ingenious ideas of what to say to the client, how to get around, you know, them qualifying and making everything look legit, you know, and I quite agree with you in terms of, you know, the institution kind of push you to go towards that line. Because if you're not making the targets that they have set, then you risk losing the job because you're not making the target, you know, that sort of a thing. And so sometimes I feel like we ourselves, meaning the banks, create the fraud. We create the lies, you know, because they set these unrealistic targets.
Exactly. So that's why I was saying, you have a code of conduct. Everybody knows it. They've read it. They may not memorize it. They may not know it word for word. But knowing that being ethical means knowing right from wrong. They know that. But when you're looking at job security, you know you have bills to pay, you have children to feed, and you're giving these targets to meet. They're going to do what it takes to get it done. Now, remember, the higher up you go up the chain, what they're looking at is what? Matrix. That's all they're looking at. Are we in the red, the green, or the yellow? That's it. And that's when all of these ethical behaviors come into play.
Just like, so not to cut you off, Ms. Archer, you know, I say sometimes too, like working in the banking institution, I said, I do not wish the Lord to come, make me employed with the bank, because it's just not right. Some of the things, I mean, and you let the customer know, but you and your brought up see and the way that you have your ethics, your personal, you know, the way you would operate in the real world, not so much the banking world, you know, it's just not right. Some of the things that I feel that we do towards the persons who just desperate to get money, but at what cost, you know? Like you have these customers that comes and they want a consolidation and their loans are like $85,000. Like, how did you get here on this little piece of salary?
Because someone did somebody a favor on a favor on a favor on a favor, and this is where they end up.
Exactly, you know, at their expense. Yeah. And so of course, we meet our target.
Exactly. So if you recall with the Wells Fargo scandal, the key word there was cross-selling. And we've all been in banking for a while. So if we know we go back about 15 years ago, that was the key word that was coming from the North. We have to learn how to cross-sell. So someone coming for a loan, you give them a credit card. They come for this, you give them that. This is just cross-selling that got Wells Fargo into all of this trouble. Because everybody was trying to meet these targets of cross-selling. So that's another thing that you have to look at when you put the pressure on staff. Because a lot of staff, when they started these cross-selling, a lot of them actually quit their job.
And right now, today, you know, sorry, not to cut you off again, the most difficult position to try to fill in the bank, for me, is trying to find a loan officer.
Yes.
They don't want the pressure of targets.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, I'd say 15 years ago when they started this cross-selling, they left lending. And these were young people who were good at doing it the simple way, the old-fashioned way. Where you sit down, you talk to the customer, you advise the customer, you give the customer the best solution, in that situation and not try to force things down a customer's throat. Because one thing you have to look at the end of the day is that the bank itself has a public perception. And one key thing for that public perception is one of trust. If I'm putting my money in the bank, I trust that the people who are working in it are abiding by the laws and the regulations, one, that they are taking care of my money, two, and then they're not going to do anything to damage their reputation. So when you have a scandal like how Wells Fargo happened, you begin to question whether or not I'm putting my money in this account with this bank, and this is what the bank is doing with it. Extending loans to people who don't qualify, creating loans for persons that don't exist, charging people exorbitant interest rates.
Again, Thomas Archer, you know, it's all about the bottom line and how they look good for the shareholders and wanting to get more investors and all those other pretty things. And I always say at the expense of, you know, the small man.
But in the Wells Fargo situation, they did question whether or not the board itself should have been sanctioned. So that turns us now to corporate governance. Because when you speak of the board, you're referring to corporate governance. So corporate governance is how you run an organization. So it's looking at management, it's looking at the board, it's looking at shareholders, and it's also looking at stakeholders. Stakeholders are the employees, your vendors, government agencies, your clients. All of those are stakeholders. So for an organization like a bank, it's talking about putting a structure around that organization where everybody has duties and responsibilities. So the relationship between all of those counterparts is what makes an organization what it is. So once you are a director, you have a fiduciary duty to that institution. And that fiduciary duty is in law, which means you have to exercise care and skill in performing in that role as a director. So now as a director, you are informed, and you should be informed on a regular basis, timely. The information should be accurate. And that comes from senior management. So remember now, the board is not involved in the day-to-day activities unless that board member is an executive, which means that that person is the head of a particular department, but they've also been appointed as a director. So when they sit around that table, the board listens to the presentation from the various heads of departments. That's the only way they know what is happening in the organization. And they have a responsibility to, one, read the information before they arrive at the board meeting and to be prepared to ask questions. So one of the questions they could have asked in Wells Fargo is, how are we making all of this money on this product compared to our competitors? And the suspicion should have arose when they look at the amount of customers and the amount of sales that were being done, that something was not right. So the board has a responsibility, but that reliance is placed on senior management. Now, the board also has that responsibility to ensure that there are policies and procedures in place that goes with the function of the actual entity, that is the bank. So the board approves all of the policies and procedures. When risk presents to the board, they let them know these are the controls that are being put in place. These are the breaches that we have seen. That's what audit will come out with. And this is how we're going to mitigate against this risk. The board, again, is expected to ask questions. And those questions and those answers are documented in the minutes. So the board members themselves have to be very thorough in carrying out their functions, making sure that they address the risk that are inherent in the nature of their business, the risk that are inherent in the products and the services that they offer. So in Wells Fargo, the board should have really looked at what are the risks when these new products are introduced. Remember, all new products that are introduced in an organization also goes through a process. And so if it is not compliance that is coming up with a report, then it should be a report that comes from risk to say a new product has been launched. These are the risks, and this is how we intend to mitigate it. And then credit comes along to say how this product is going to be launched. And then accounts comes with the figures as to what we anticipate from the launch of this new product. So again, it comes to the board asking the relevant questions. So all banks and trust companies and credit unions in the Bahamas have on an annual basis to prepare and submit to the central bank what we call the corporate governance certification. And in that document, there's a template at the back of the guideline. They have to state whether or not they have any material deficiencies in their corporate governance document. And if they have deficiencies, they have to be able to say how they are going to address it and give a timeline. And then the directors have to sign that document. In addition to that, they should also have the external auditor review and look at their whole methodology surrounding their corporate governance framework. So when you look at everything that an organization does, the key thing is the board asleep at the wheel or are they awake? That's why the composition of the board is so important. Based upon the nature of your business, the size and the complexity, you select your board members so that they fit into the organization. And so you have persons that represent different risk areas in your organization so that the right questions are addressed by the directors. Any comments? No?
There is.
So from the board perspective, after they've looked at the financials, looking at the performance for the last quarter, or looking at the performance at year end, the main focus after that is looking at what are our risks. And that's why a member of the board should be knowledgeable about risk management. They should be there to drive that whole momentum on making sure that the institution has the risk intelligence to carry out its duties. And in today's world, that means that you must have the technology in order to carry out your work and to be able to mitigate against the risk. So everybody knows that for risk, there's always the 3 lines of defense. The front line, compliance, along with internal audit, and then you have external audit. But if you look at it from a functional point of view, you have the front line, then you have executives, and then you have the board. And the board should be aware of all of the risks that are inherent in the financial institution. So when you hear them say they're going on one of those strategic retreats, that's when the organization sets out this 3 to 5 year plan and is going to look at our existing products, new products we want to launch. Then they're going to look at what are the risks that exist in the organization now. What are the new risks that can come about in this 3 to 5 years? And then what are the emerging risks? And emerging risks come from the external factors in the environment in which they operate. So in your notes, I've given you a list of different risks. So your risk can be in categories, or in your enterprise risk management, you just list the risks that are inherent in your business. So sometimes you can put 2 or 3 risks under one category. So it depends upon the institution and the complexity of the products and services that they offer. And then last but not least, I've just listed just a few important questions on risk management. What is the organization's philosophy towards financial risk? Do supervisors understand the financial product and instruments that the organization uses and owns? And that is a very key question, that second one. You have a lot of institutions that come here in the Bahamas, obtain a license. They may say they have 2 products that are well known in the financial industry, but they are also offering other products that are not known. And that's another thing that you have to understand in the financial arena. Products are being created all the time. And you have to keep abreast of these products and how they operate, what the risks are involved, and whether or not you have the tools in place to mitigate against those risks. That is who formulates the organization's guidelines and policies. If you're a standalone entity like BOB, then you create them yourselves. If you're part of a subsidiary, they're prepared in head office. If they're prepared in head office somewhere around the world, you have to adapt those policies to the local legislation here in the Bahamas. Because you can't follow those as they are written from the head office. They have to be adapted to the local laws and regulations. Then has the board of directors approved these policies? Every policy that is used for reference, guidance, and approval in the financial institution must be approved by the board. Procedures are not approved by the board. Procedures are approved by managers. Can the board foster a risk management culture within the organization? Again, this is the tone from the top. If the communication comes from senior management that the board has set these risks, or the board has approved these risks, or the board has looked at the enterprise risk management and agrees with the approach that the bank has decided to take against mitigating against these risks, then you begin to create that culture within the organization. Because remember, in this century now, we're not looking at just the products and how can I sell them, but in the back of your mind, and every time you promote something, you'll have to think about the risk. And as Michelle was saying, everything comes down to the bottom line because you have investors. But your focus when you're carrying out your duties every day is to think about what is the risk to the organization? How will this impact the bottom line? And then is there a separation of duties? And you'll see internal audit and external audit is always ensuring that there's a separation of duties so that there is no conflict of interest. Then what type of financial product or instruments may the organization use? Again, you're looking at trying to stay on the cutting edge. I know for a lot of organizations, they do not like to move too fast into technology. One, they think the staff doesn't understand it. Two, it's too costly. But in today's world, if you were to, I guess, begin to see how other financial institutions operate around the world, like in Singapore and China, you will see intelligence is everything. Is there a limit system in place? How are these financial products instruments valued? What are the major risks resulting from these products and instruments? And our senior management and the board kept abreast of the financial exposures facing organizations at any one time. All of this comes to supervisors and managers meeting frequently, if not weekly, then bi-monthly. Sitting down and discussing not just the product itself and how much money you've made, but you have to look at the risk. Everything has to do with the risk. You could make as much money as you want. That's what Wells Fargo was doing. But there was a risk. And they did not address the risk, nor did they mitigate against the risk. And that cost them to pay huge fines. And then how much information can a shareholder or stakeholder obtain regarding the financial risk of the organization? And you would see that in your annual reports. It should address the key risk, prioritizing, if not the top 10, the top 5, and how the financial institution is addressing those risks. So all in all, you can see that for an institution, ethics and having a good ethical culture is key to running an organization that is profitable in the long run. In addition to that is having the right composition on the board, having board of directors who are knowledgeable, and something that I forgot, which is on an annual basis, you conduct an assessment of your directors, making sure you have the right persons on the board to help you attain the goals that you're trying to make. Any comments?
That's a question, Ms. Archer, in terms of, and I get it, you know, they go to these board meetings and then you see at the start of the fiscal, they get all these products, or we got to pull back and we got to do this and do that. And then midway of the fiscal, then the rule changes when they see what they would have discussed and implemented isn't working. Then they come up with this whole new strategy, and then audit comes in. You know, I don't get it. I don't know who's be talking to who. You know, audit comes in and then audit says, oh, you're not supposed to be doing this. And then the managers who came up with the new thing outside of what should have been, you know, they clamp down on you as if you making these rules.
Okay, so the first thing is, remember when I started talking about corporate governance and a corporate governance framework. If you have a good corporate governance framework, whenever there's a launch of a new product or you're varying the terms of a product, let's say to capture a wider market or a particular group of people, the first thing they have to do is whoever's launching that product, let's say if it's credit, they have to think about all of the various departments or units who should be involved at the very beginning. You sit around the table and you discuss the product. So someone comes and they describe what the product is. Then they talk about the audience. Then they could talk about the terms of the product. They could talk about their projection of what they hope to attain. They could talk about who's going to market it. Then compliance comes in. Compliance is going to talk about whether or not the existing policies and procedures align with what you're trying to do. It'll also talk about whether there is any laws or rules that need to be checked out. Then risk comes in. Risk then talks about what risk do I need to identify with what changes you're making on new products. So it goes around the table. That's before it even goes to the board. So when it goes to the board, you're actually giving the board all of the information that it needs. And then, like I said earlier, the members of the board supposed to have the skills to ask the relevant question based upon the presentation. The only way I could see you coming back and changing things is if your target market is not responding to the product in the way in which you fashioned it. But all your board approvals, your regulatory approvals, your internal audit, your compliance check off, all those should be done before you launch that product in whatever department it's in. That's what a corporate governance framework is about. It's about all stakeholders coming together and agreeing on one approach. So if you're not there yet, you have to try to get to that level.
Understood.
Yeah, you have to get to that level. And it starts with whoever's the CEO or the managing director. It starts there.
But Ms. Archer, so too, and I guess is in the banking world, I guess as is everywhere else, the pressure's on the managing director, and the bottom line is always to please the shareholders. And so if that managing director isn't too free, I should say, or want to do, I would say you never put an accounting to watch the books, that kind of a thing. Because if he's not performing as to shareholders' expectations to their return, then they quickly get rid of you too.
Yeah, but it's the same as if, okay, in that role, right? When you take on that role, that CEO or managing director reports to the chairman. The chairman liaises with the shareholders. So when the chairman says, this is what the shareholders' expectations are, that CEO/MD, their responsibility is to deliver. So if I said to you now, I'm the chairman and I say to you, the shareholders have looked at the performance last year, they're not too pleased. They want us to make at least $1.5 million or $2 million more dollars. They like the products. They say the reputation is good. The staff appear to be loyal. Based on the HR report, we didn't have a high turnover, blah, blah, blah. So we need to make more money. As the CEO, MD, that is your time right there to come clean. Can you do it? If you say you're going to try your best to do it, then you need to come back to the board, to the chairman, with your ideas after you start with your senior management as to how you're going to make it happen. Because if you cannot make it happen at the end of that year, you are gone.
The pressure.
It is a pressure. Now, it's the same as if you had someone who's coaching a team. If that team has lost for the last 5 years and they hire you and they say, we need to win. If not this year, it has to be next year. And you say, I could do it. First year you lost, second year you lost, you're fired. So you have to come to the table with your A game. You have to be sitting with your management team and figuring out what needs to be done to achieve the targets that the chairman has said that the shareholders looking for. in addition to all the rest of the things that you're doing. Because remember now, the shareholders don't want to hear any bad news about the organization. That's reputational risk, loss of money. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to see a high turnover of staff. Reputational risk again. Could even be operational risk. So that's the reason why you see a CEO has weekly meetings with key personnel, because he has to keep his pulse on the ground to know what is happening, to make the right decisions and give the right answers. Yes, it is a lot of stress. Anyone else? Fountain, Miller, Knowles? Any comments? Hold on, you think I'm...
Ms. Archer, I think straightforward.
You can like breaking up. Repeat that. That was Cassandra?
That's Zenobia.
Oh, that was
That wasn't me, Ms. Archer.
Oh.
My background noisy.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. But that's what's happening. It all comes to your corporate governance guidance or framework that you put in place. That's how an organization is run. Everything is not haphazard, jump here and jump there. It has to be organized. That's what it's all about, putting a structure in place. Any other comments? No? Everybody's happy. All right. So now, let's talk about the final exam that's around the corner. And the request was 60-40. Remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So.
And the 60-40 is broken down how?
60 scenario, 40 multiple choice.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I've given you 8 scenario questions and you choose 6. And I've given you 20 multiple choice questions, 20 points each. My multiple choice instructions is select the best answer.
That's 2 points each.
Yes, 2 points each. So there is a question on the case of Malik Momin and February Point Resort Estates. And if you recall, in that case, it spoke about the planning and subdivision. And
yes,
the question...
Archer, just 1 minute, please.
Okay.
Miss Archer, you could repeat that, please?
No, hold on. As soon as Michelle comes back, she say, hold on, and I'll start again.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Soon as she comes back. I know everybody get the pen. Make sure your pen don't run out of ink now. I need to turn on my light. It's looking like it's going to rain. Eh?
Yeah, thundering.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Thundering, yeah. Yeah.
All right, sorry, Miss Archer, go ahead. Sorry about that.
I gotta turn on my light.
Okay.
Can't see. Okay, so I said, remember the case of Malik Moment versus February Point, where the Privy Council was discussing the Planning and Subdivision Act 2010. Everybody recall that one? No?
Spell that first name. Miss Archie, spell that the name for me, please.
Malik, M-A-L-I-K.
And you said versus who?
February Point. Why do you sound like this new to yours?
We still in
Miss
the room.
Archer, isn't this the list that Miguel sent us?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure this wasn't something outside of that.
No, there's nothing outside. The
Okay.
request was made to send you all the cases to read over the lovely Easter holiday.
Yes, okay, it's the same list. Wonderful.
Yes. So I'm saying there's a question on that case. The question is to discuss the reasons why February Point Resort Estates has to repay Mr. Moment.
Okay.
Because you remember that case, it spoke about Section 62 of the Planning and Subdivision Act. So that's a giveaway question. All right, now, going to another question. Remember the case of Commonwealth Bank and Pelican?
Yeah.
Julian, what his name was?
Julian Pelican.
Yes. So, under the Homeowners Protection Act, there is a process that the mortgagee has to follow to comply with Section 4. We should be able to discuss that.
You said under the Homeowners Act.
Homeowners Protection Act, Section 4. I'm trying to find my...
That's you're saying the policy the mortgagee would have to follow, right?
The process.
Process.
The process.
Do you recall the case of Cyril Minnis and Commonwealth Bank?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is a general question first. It speaks about discussion on the elements of a contract. So that's just a straight out answer for A. And then the B part wants you to discuss the principle of what is an agreement using the case of Cyril and Commonwealth Bank. And discuss whether there was a breach of contract. Then the next question is on that case that you all love, B.O.B. and the Maycocks, Herman and Sabrina. And I've given you a little scenario, and then I ask you whether or not the mortgagee's right to issue the writ was statute barred. And that comes from that case. So in addition to B.O.B. and Herman Maycock, you need to review section 23.3, 23 subsection 3 of the Homeowners Protection Act, and section 38 subsection 5 of the Limitation Act. But they're all mentioned in the case.
Repeat them, section 23.
3 of the Homeowners Protection Act and section 38.5 of the Limitation Act.
May you repeat the first part, please? You said whether or not the mortgagee.
Right to issue the writ was statute barred. Then, of course, I know this is Michelle's favorite people, the Mitchells, Philip and Brenda, and Finco. Where they were arguing that they signed the sheet of paper and that didn't make, just signing that by itself didn't make it a mortgage deed. So I want you to summarize what's the guide for a valid mortgage. It's in the case. And what does it mean by delivery of a deed?
What was the last part again, Ms. Archer?
Delivery of a deed. What does that mean in law? Delivery of a deed.
Could you repeat which case that was again, please?
That was Philip Mitchell and Brenda Mae Mitchell and Finco. Remember, we had the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court case on that one.
Thank you.
Okay. Then the next case is the next case that you all love so much, Cube Enterprises and Scotiabank. Remember that on the life insurance?
Yes.
Okay. So the question on that one is whether or not it was the obligation of the mortgagee to ensure that there was personal insurance. And then the part B of that is whether or not the bank was at fault. That's those two.
Repeat that, please, Andy.
A is the personal insurance, where it was the obligation of the mortgagee to ensure that the insurance was in place. And whether the bank was at fault. Then the next question has an A and B. One part asks you to explain for risk in a financial institution. And the other part asks you to explain the relationship between a financial institution and its clients. You notice that key word? The word is relationship. The last one asks you to discuss the importance of ethics in making decisions and how is it related to corporate governance.
Repeat that for me, please, Ms. Archer.
The importance of ethics in making decisions and what's the relationship to corporate governance. The bonus is on the case of George Damianos and BOB and Windermere Island North Development and Joseph Harry Rich and CH Windermere Lending LLC. Remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that one too.
Okay. So this one, the question is saying, again, a little scenario, and it says, referring to a decided case, which is George Damianos, explain what is meant by, in quotes, a sale of property so-called. Because remember, they wanted to get their commission on the listing, but it was sold before that. And the question was whether or not.
Whether it constituted a sale.
Yeah, yes.
A sale of property, what?
Sale of property called.
So you keep breaking up. A sale
of property so-called, C-A-L-L-E-D.
Okay.
Okay. The multiple choice questions comes from units 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5.
So, Ms. Archer, we're choosing, you said
6 out of 8.
6 out of 8. And we can do the bonus?
Yes.
Okay.
6 out of 8, all the multiple choice, and you all asked for bonus, so I gave you a bonus. If you
Okay.
don't, but you don't have to do it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
The bonus is valued at the same amount?
What you mean? 10?
Out of the 6 to 8.
I'll see. Depends on how well you answer. The highest it could go is 10.
Miss Archer, you said explain for risk in the financial institute, and then you said explain the relationship. I didn't get the rest of that.
Between ethics, relationship between ethics and corporate governance.
Okay.
Yeah. There shouldn't be anybody to say they don't know what's on the exam. No one should be in that exam scratching your head. I'm going to ask. Who was scratching their head in that exam? That they did study.
Oh God.
You can't get it better than that.
Every day. 1 second. I have something else for number 7. You said the first part was explain for risk in a financial institution. For the second part, I have explained the relationship between a financial institution and its client.
Okay,
I got that as well.
Okay. The question for number 7 was explain for risk for a financial institution. And then part B asks you, explain the relationship between a financial institution and its clients.
Right.
Question.
Sorry, go ahead.
The next question asks you to discuss ethics in decision-making and its relationship to corporate governance.
Discuss the importance of ethics in its decision-making.
In decision-making, yes.
Decision-making.
Remember, that's how we open up this module talking about ethics, being right and wrong, and making decisions.
What? The relationship to... Okay, so you change it then.
What do you mean?
Now it's a...
You said something different just now.
Yeah,
no, I think she did 7 and 8, and then there's the bonus.
No. In this last
they need clarity.
Yeah, 7 was explain the risks, and then there was a B to 7, and then number 8 says to discuss the access and decision making.
And how it relates to a corporate governance.
Right.
That's
the importance of ethics in decision making.
And how it relates to corporate governance.
That's one question.
Right.
Yeah.
And 7 has 2 parts. One part is on for risk, and the other part is the relationship between
a financial institution and its clients.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
There's no need to breathe hard. You had the whole Easter weekend.
You know, Ms. Archer, to be fair, we had the whole Easter weekend, although we are to the read.
Ms. Archer, just one more thing I need you to clarify for me, please. The scenario, you said the scenarios was above 2 of them. The last one, where we had the scenario, the questions with the scenarios in front.
That's the bonuses. No?
The bonus had a scenario.
Has a scenario. The one
5 and 4.
Cuban crisis has a scenario.
Okay, scenario. Okay.
All of them have a scenario.
Besides 7.
7 and 8 have a
7 and 8.
But all the rest have a scenario.
Okay.
And a scenario relates to the case that I gave you.
Right. Okay. All righty.
So if you see subdivision and planning, you know that's the case of Malik.
Yeah.
If you see me talking about insurance, you know that's the case with the man who didn't get the insurance and his wife is there arguing.
That's Cubans concubine.
Okay.
I'm thinking if I should change this question.
So it's eight questions.
Choose 6.
The bonus, and then the multiple choice on units 5 through 11.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yep. Very easy. Easy.
Who says the lecture?
The answers.
I could ask the cases.
I scared for these multiple choice now.
That was agreed. Krista did her little what you call that, Krista?
Yeah, Krista supported by Michelle, but go right ahead.
Yes, Ms. Bobs, that's right. We saved the day.
I think y'all did it 3 times.
Okay, but no.
I went on a campaign.
I swear, right?
So
Miss,
no need for somebody to cry. Yes.
I think we all gonna agree on this one.
Okay.
Right? Can you give us some sample multiple choice questions? We don't have to know which 20 you choose. No, you could give us like 40 questions. So, 40 multiple choice questions. Let us go over.
40 multiple choice questions.
30.
You want me to write 40 questions?
No, she want you to throw it out there like the study guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what she meant. You know these multiple choice, they actually sat down and wrote these from scratch. These are not pre-done. They're actually, I write fresh ones every time. They're not the same.
These need to be like when you have the PJC and PGCSB where you have past papers you could look at.
They're still failing.
Krista, we ain't gonna say nothing.
Not a word.
No, mom's the word.
Because and the decision was y'all wanted multiple choice because the answers are there. Correct?
2 point multiple choice. You see what y'all did? Not from Sacha. You see what y'all did?
Krista, I said we wasn't gonna say nothing. Why are you talking?
Oops, my bad. Sorry. Okay, back on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm one to still say, I'm going to still stick with my multiple choice. I'm
okay.
Sorry.
Okay, good girl.
That's fine. That we understand.
I mean, I can do it another way, whereby you don't have to do the multiple choice if you don't wish. You could just answer 5 scenario questions from part A.
No, we didn't want to cheat Miss Johnson at all.
Wait, you mean you could make that an option?
No. Right.
Persons who wish.
Yeah, I give you an option. You can just do 5 from part A, which means that you get 20 points each. You'll write more. Or you could do 6 from A and all the multiple choice.
I think we need to stick with what we have.
No.
I like that option. I like having the option. Because you could do either one.
Right, that's what she's doing. She's not changing.
Yeah, she's not changing it. She's just giving us a second option.
Oh, okay.
That sounds good.
But my question is, let me ask this question though. So you have to either, so you can't just attempt to answer some of the multiple choice and then some of the 5 questions that you give it. You have to do either or. All of the multiple choice or all of these questions that you give it.
No. 2 choices. You can take the choice of doing 5 scenarios.
Plus the bonus.
Plus the bonus, yes. I ain't counting the bonus in this now, just counting the main part. That's what so you can do 5 scenario questions. If you do 5 scenario questions, they won't be written in short form. They'll be longer. You give more detail. So you can do 5 of those.
I just choose my multiple choice.
If you choose not to, then you can do 8 short answers with 10 points each.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 6 short answers out of the 8.
Right.
And you could do your 20 multiple choice.
Okay.
Which was the original.
Yes, which was the original. But I can give you a choice.
The choice sounds good because you're not changing the option for Ms. Johnson. And then you're increasing the option for me and Krista.
However, everyone have to agree, right?
No.
I mean, it's fair.
No, when you get in the exam, I think she's saying that on the paper, it'll tell you to do 4 scenarios to make them lately worth 20 points each. Your answers will need to be longer, right, Ms. Archer?
Yeah, your answers will be longer.
Right, so you can get 20 points each, or you can decide to do the 6
short answers.
I agree with Michelle. If the option is there and you could do what you want to do, then let her put it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Do it if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, just stick with the original plan with doing the multiple choice. If you want to, I mean, that's what way I'm gonna go. But I'm just saying, it doesn't hurt to have the short for 5. Yeah, the option. It doesn't hurt to have it there.
Okay. I thought it was either or. That's why.
I thought the exam was to do 6 short answers and
no,
the multiple choice.
This separate, right? These 5 questions are separate from our original plan. Am I correct, Ms. Archer?
Correct.
Yeah. This is something separate. So she's gonna have the 8 questions there with the multiple choice, And then if you opt not to do the multiple choice, then she has 5 questions that you can do instead of doing the multiple choice. But you still gotta pick 6 out of the 8.
No, not in addition to now.
No, the same question.
So that means this is what I'm understanding it to be. You could answer the 5 scenario questions. They would be worth 20 points each. If you do not answer if you do not answer the multiple choice, that's the option. Or you could answer the 6 scenario questions along with the multiple choice. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you answer the 5 scenario questions, they're worth 20 points. So that means that you have
more. You have to write more.
You have to write more.
No, sir.
5 out of the questions that's already been given, it's just got to be more lengthier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you already have the questions.
You already have them.
You have the question.
I like that.
But we'll see how it goes when you get in there and you're seeing if you're comfortable. I guess go with which way is best for you.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get comfortable from now because you have to prepare.
Well, you might as well just prepare for everything.
Exactly. That's what I think. Just prepare for everything.
Okay.
And then make a decision when you just make the decision when you get there.
Exactly. But the option is there.
Yes.
We agree?
Yes.
Agreed.
Forgive me if I missed it. How long is the exam, Ms. Archer?
3 hours.
Okay.
Oh, what time
is the time it starts? Yes.
I'll send that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send him a note to send you to remind you of the date and the time.
Can you send the email to my personal, not my personal, to my work email, please?
No, send it to him. You send him an email.
Okay. Yeah, you send. I'm in the process of
I'm just
deleting
gonna send him the reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to send out the exam date and time.
Okay.
Do that right now.
And tell them don't forget the special circumstances to 2 students in Freeport, please.
Okay, special circumstances, yes.
I gotta make sure I call my internet provider.
You probably need to go into the bank to do that, James, just to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's where I'll do it from.
And don't forget.
And hope IT ain't running no special.
That's another thing.
Either which, I'll find a way.
Yeah, I sending him now.
So this is our last class, eh?
Yes.
Guys, I
Ms.
must
Archer?
say,
It's so sad. I'm gonna miss all of you.
I just say that, Krista. I say,
So
guys, I
much.
must say, I'll miss the
Hello.
infos and the
But I got to meet a lot
Y'all
of
just
new
make my
persons.
Monday nights exciting.
I swear, I say, and the scoops.
Yes. Let's sit
Ah.
here.
Well, you know, we don't have meetings anymore, so you get to meet who you don't get to meet. Let me say that.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. So I sent it to Miguel. And I told him I'm sending him an amended exam. So I'll just change the instructions at the top.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Yes, ma'am.
I sent you something in the chat, Miss Archer.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back there then. Okay. Chat-chat-a-rat. Okay, let me answer you. Oh, this thing say everyone.
No,
So,
let's.
Yeah, just you. I have it to just you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I appreciate what you're doing, Miss Archer. I feel like you're really setting us up for success. You're doing everything within your powers. We just have to do our part.
You
Yeah.
just have to do your part.
I agree. I agree, Stacy. Thank you, Ms. Archer. Appreciate it.
Yes.
This Lord,
Not a
when I first
problem.
started, it was like, I don't know how I can do this.
Yeah, you made it a whole lot easier for me. I can speak for. Thank you.
Yes. I try, you know, at the beginning, a lot of students complain, say it's so much work. Oh my God, why is woman giving us these cases? We're not lawyers. But for you to understand, you know, you see the paper every day, but what does it mean? And to know what it means, because it is law, you have to read the cases. And I think over time, you all begin to see how the judges rule on these cases and becomes familiar. And now even in your day-to-day work, when you see certain things, you will know that, okay, if this goes before the court, this is how this is going to play out. I'm going to tell you now. And then you'll have cases in your head. You may not remember the name, but you'll be able to go back to your notes and you'll be able to say, this is what I was talking about.
Well, Ms. Archer, how would you know that, and you get a case in point, how would you know that the next day after we finish discussing how people just make up these companies and try to layer funds, a case came up, an actual one in my branch, and you know I was able to say, no, I need to know. And I pulling out cases. I was like, wow.
Yes. Yes. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that was
Miss Archer, the day after we dealt with Cyril Minnis, I saw him inside the bank. You saw him when he was in there, babe?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So yeah, it works. You know, I know you all cry and you all were very quiet first, like I can say 2.5 weeks. And then after, you know, you got into it, and you see how it is now. You all are quite relaxed. You're smiling, you're laughing at the cases as you begin to see how it all fit together. So it was a good class.
It really was. And if you come across any more interesting, juicy ones, feel free to still share them. You have our email address. We like people business.
Understatement, love.
I'll think about it, but if I come across it in my next cruise students, and I'll say, oh, you know what? Let me send this to that set. They love this. All right, not a problem. All right, so I wish you all luck. Don't disappoint me. Study, please.
Definitely.
Okay, all right. And you know,
sorry.
Yes.
I just needed to, this Michelle again. I just needed to, I never saw my made up results.
What made up results?
The supplemental?
For the
I didn't get it either.
That's a supplement?
Yeah, for the midterm.
I wonder if
I didn't get it.
Don't forget, I have points to add to the midterm for all of your presentations, you know.
Oh, okay.
You remember?
Yeah, but remember you gave us a supplemental exam if you wanted to do it to get extra points from the midterm.
Yes.
We didn't get we didn't get our how we did on that.
The supplemental grades. Okay.
Right.
Paul didn't get it. Kelly Vat and who else?
Me, I didn't get it either.
Okay, Bernie.
Cassandra.
Okay. All right. That's 4 of you. Okay. All right. I'll follow up with Miguel on that.
All right. Thank you again, Ms. Archer. It was really fun. It was
Thank
fun.
you. Yes, it was.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Nice meeting all of you.
Nice meeting you guys.
Yes,
Bye.
it was a good
Same
class.
here.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks,
Bye. Good
Roxanne.
night.
All right.
Have a good night.
All right.
And
Good
then
night.
everyone, all the best.
All the best.